My boss fired me while I was securing their biggest deal yet. Now that deal belongs to my company, I stared at my phone screen in complete disbelief. The text message glowed back at me in the dim hotel room light. Effective immediately. Your employment with the company is terminated. It was 11:42 p.m., and I was supposed to close the biggest deal in company history in less than 10 hours. 5 years. 5 years of my life poured into Sterling Industries. Late nights, missed family dinners, canceled vacations, all for this moment. Tomorrow morning, I was scheduled to sign a $15 million partnership with Meridian Global, the biggest client our company had ever pursued. My hands trembled as I read the message again. No explanation. No phone call. Just a cold, corporate text sent while I was finalizing contract details in a hotel room 3,000 miles from home. The irony hit me like a punch to the gut. They fired me while I was literally securing their future. The deal that would make careers, boost stock prices, and fund their expansion for the next decade. And they decided to get rid of me hours before I sealed it. But what they didn't realize was that Meridian Global didn't want Sterling Industries. They wanted me. And tomorrow morning, everything was about to change. Let me take you back to where this all started. 5 years ago, I walked into Sterling Industries as a junior account manager, hungry and determined to prove myself. The company specialized in logistics software for international corporations, and I quickly discovered I had a talent for building relationships with difficult clients. My first year was rough. Long hours, demanding bosses, and deals that fell through at the last minute. But I learned something important. Success in this business wasn't about the product we sold. It was about trust. Clients didn't buy software, they bought confidence in the person selling it. By my second year, I was handling mid-level accounts. By my third, I was managing million-dollar deals. My track record was spotless. Every client I worked with became a long-term partner. I had a gift for understanding what people needed, even when they couldn't express it themselves. My manager, Michael Johnson, noticed my success. He started assigning me the problem accounts, clients who were ready to walk away, deals that seemed impossible to save. I became known as the closer, the person they sent in when everything else had failed. I loved the challenge. I thrived on turning hostile negotiations into partnerships. But I had no idea that my success was painting a target on my back. The Meridian Global opportunity came to us 8 months ago. It was the kind of deal that transforms companies overnight. They needed a complete overhaul of their international shipping software, a project worth $15 million in the first year alone, with potential for $50 million over 5 years. Michael called me into his office on a rainy Tuesday morning. "We're putting you on point for Meridian," he said, sliding a thick folder across his desk. "This is it, Sarah. The big one. Land this deal, and you'll write your own ticket here." I opened the folder and felt my pulse quicken. Meridian Global was a Fortune 500 company with operations in 47 countries. Their current system was outdated, inefficient, and costing them millions in delays and errors. They were shopping for a complete solution, and we were one of 3 companies in the running. The competition was fierce. Our rivals had bigger teams, larger budgets, and established relationships with Meridian's leadership. But Michael believed in my approach, building genuine connections with decision-makers and understanding their real needs, not just their stated requirements. I spent the next week researching everything about Meridian Global, their history, their challenges, their corporate culture, even their executives' backgrounds. I was determined to understand them better than they understood themselves. Little did I know, this preparation would save my career. My first meeting with Meridian's team was at their headquarters in Chicago. The conference room was intimidating, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a massive mahogany table, and 8 executives in expensive suits watching my every move. The CEO, Victoria Hammond, was particularly intimidating. She had a reputation for being brilliant, demanding, and completely intolerant of time wasters. She'd built Meridian from a small shipping capable powerhouse through sheer determination and strategic thinking. I started my presentation with a question instead of a pitch. "Before we talk about what we can do for you, help me understand what's keeping you awake at night." The room went quiet. Victoria leaned forward, studying me with sharp eyes. Then she smiled, the first genuine expression I'd seen from anyone in the room. "Our system crashes twice a week," she said. "We lose 3 hours of productivity every time it happens. Multiply that across 47 countries, and we're hemorrhaging money." For the next 2 hours, we didn't talk about our software. We talked about their pain points, their frustrations, their failed attempts to fix the problems internally. I listened, asked follow-up questions, and took detailed notes. By the end of the meeting, I wasn't just another vendor. I was someone who understood their business. The next few months were a whirlwind of presentations, demonstrations, and negotiations. I flew to Chicago every other week, sometimes staying for 3 or 4 days at a time. Slowly, I built relationships with every member of their decision-making team. Victoria and I developed a particularly strong working relationship. She was tough but fair, and she appreciated my direct communication style. During one late-night planning session, she told me something that would prove crucial later. "Sarah, I need you to understand something," she said, looking tired after a 14-hour day. "We're not just buying software. We're buying a partnership. The company that wins this deal will be working with us for the next decade. I need to trust that whoever we choose will be there for us when things go wrong." I assured her that Sterling Industries was committed to long-term partnerships. But her words stuck with me. This wasn't just about closing a deal. It was about building a relationship that would last years. Meanwhile, back at Sterling, my success was generating attention. Michael bragged about my progress in board meetings. The executives started asking about the Meridian deal in every quarterly review. I was becoming the face of the company's biggest opportunity. But I also noticed subtle changes in how my colleagues treated me. Whispered conversations that stopped when I walked by. Exclusion from meetings I used to attend regularly. Success, I realized, was breeding resentment. By month 6, we were down to the final 2 companies. Our biggest competitor was TechFlow Solutions, a massive corporation with 3 times our revenue and a client list that read like the Fortune 100. On paper, they should have won easily. But Victoria's team kept coming back to the same concern: personal attention. TechFlow assigned different representatives to different aspects of the project. Their team changed every few months as people got promoted or transferred. Meridian wanted consistency. During our second-to-last presentation, Victoria asked a question that caught everyone off guard. "If we sign with Sterling, who will be our primary contact for the life of this partnership?" Michael started to give a corporate answer about team approaches and shared responsibility, but Victoria cut him off. "I want a straight answer. Who is our person?" Michael looked at me, then back at Victoria. "Sarah will be your primary contact for as long as you want her in that role." Victoria nodded, satisfied. After the meeting, she pulled me aside. "I want you to know, we're not signing this deal with Sterling Industries. We're signing it with you. If something happens to you, if you leave the company, this partnership becomes much less attractive to us." Her words should have been encouraging. Instead, they filled me with a strange sense of unease. The deal was built around me personally, which meant I had enormous value to Sterling. But it also meant I was carrying all the risk. The final month of negotiations was intense. We were down to contract details, pricing, implementation timelines, service level agreements, and penalty clauses. Every word mattered because this document would govern a relationship worth millions of dollars. I practically lived at Meridian's headquarters during this period. Victoria's team trusted me enough to share their concerns openly, which helped me address problems before they became deal breakers. When their CFO worried about implementation costs, I restructured our pricing model to spread expenses over 2 years. When their CTO questioned our technical capabilities, I arranged demonstrations with our development team. Each problem we solved together strengthened our relationship. By the end of month 7, I wasn't just their vendor, I was their consultant, helping them think through challenges that went beyond our software. The signing was scheduled for Friday morning at 9 a.m. All the documents were ready. Victoria's board had approved the deal. Sterling's executives were planning a celebration lunch. I flew to Chicago on Thursday afternoon, feeling excited and nervous. This was the culmination of everything I'd worked for, not just during the 8 months of negotiations, but during my entire career. Landing this deal would establish me as one of the top salespeople in the industry. Thursday evening, I worked until midnight, reviewing every page of the contract one final time. Everything was perfect. I went to bed confident that tomorrow would be the best day of my professional life. I woke up at 6:30 a.m., feeling energetic despite only 5 hours of sleep. Today was the day. I ordered room service breakfast and reviewed my notes one last time while drinking coffee and watching the sunrise over Chicago. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "Big day. Make us proud." I smiled and typed back, "Ready to close this thing." I spent an hour getting ready, choosing my best suit and making sure every detail was perfect. Victoria had mentioned that Meridian's board chairman would attend the signing ceremony, and I wanted to make a strong impression. At 8:15 a.m., I gathered my materials and headed downstairs to catch a taxi to Meridian's office. The signing was scheduled for 9 a.m., giving us time for a brief final review before the ceremony. While waiting for the taxi, I checked my email one last time. Nothing urgent, just a few congratulatory messages from colleagues who knew about the deal. My phone showed one unread text message, but I figured it could wait until after the signing. The taxi arrived and I settled into the back seat for the 20-minute ride to Meridian's headquarters. Traffic was light and we made good time. I was feeling confident, energetic, and ready to close the biggest deal of my career. It wasn't until we hit a red light that I remembered the unread text message. I pulled out my phone to check it, expecting something routine. What I saw made my blood run cold. Effective immediately, your employment with the company is terminated. Please return all company property. HR will contact you regarding your severance. I read the message 3 times before it sank in. Sterling Industries had fired me. By text message. At 11:42 p.m. the night before I was supposed to close their biggest deal ever. My hands started shaking. The taxi driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "You okay back there?" I couldn't answer. My mind was racing, trying to process what had happened. Why now? Why like this? After 8 months of perfect execution, after building the relationship that made this deal possible, they decided to fire me 12 hours before the signing? I tried calling Michael. Straight to voicemail. I tried calling HR. No answer. I tried calling my colleague Mike, who might know what was happening. His phone went directly to voicemail too. The taxi pulled up to Meridian's building. The driver turned around, concerned. "This your stop?" I sat frozen in the back seat, staring at the gleaming office tower where Victoria and her team were waiting for me. They trusted me. They'd built this deal around their relationship with me personally. And now I was supposed to walk in there and tell them I'd been fired? "Give me a minute," I told the taxi driver. I needed to think. I paid the taxi and stood on the sidewalk outside Meridian's building, my mind spinning. People in business suits walked past me, heading to their important meetings and normal jobs. I envied them. My phone buzzed with another text, this one from an unknown number. "This is Janet from Sterling HR. Please confirm receipt of termination notice. Company property must be returned by end of business today." Company property. They wanted their laptop, their phone, their business cards. But what about the deal? What about the 8 months of work I'd put into building this relationship? What about Meridian's trust in me? I tried logging into my company email from my phone. Access denied. They'd already locked me out of all systems. Whatever was happening, they'd planned it carefully. Standing there on the busy Chicago street, I felt a moment of complete despair. 5 years of loyalty, 5 years of success, 5 years of making them money, and this was how they repaid me. But then something shifted in my mind. Anger replaced despair. Determination replaced confusion. Victoria's words echoed in my memory. "We're not signing this deal with Sterling Industries. We're signing it with you." What if I took her literally? I looked up at Meridian's building, then down at my phone showing the termination text. For the first time since reading that message, I smiled. They wanted to fire me? Fine. But they couldn't fire the relationships I'd built. I walked into Meridian's lobby with a completely different mindset than I'd had 20 minutes earlier. Instead of representing Sterling Industries, I was representing myself. Instead of feeling nervous about the signing, I felt curious about what Victoria would say when I told her the truth. The security guard recognized me and waved me through to the elevator. "Big day today, right, Miss Sarah?" "Bigger than you know," I replied. I rode the elevator to the 42nd floor, where Meridian's executive offices were located. Victoria's assistant, Emily, greeted me with a warm smile. "They're all in the conference room," she said. "Victoria asked me to bring you in as soon as you arrived." "Actually, could I speak with Victoria privately for a few minutes first? Something has come up that she needs to know about." Emily looked concerned. "Is everything okay? The contracts are all ready for signing." "Everything will be fine," I said, hoping I sounded more confident than I felt. "I just need to brief her on a situation that developed this morning." Emily knocked on Victoria's office door, then gestured for me to go in. Victoria was on the phone but waved me toward a chair. She finished her call quickly and turned her attention to me. "You look serious," she said. "Please tell me there isn't a last-minute problem with the contracts." I took a deep breath. "Victoria, I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear me out completely before you respond." Victoria leaned back in her chair, studying my face. She'd built a Fortune 500 company by reading people, and she could tell something significant was happening. "I'm listening," she said. "Sterling Industries fired me last night, by text message, at 11:42 p.m., 12 hours before I was supposed to close this deal with you." Victoria's expression didn't change, but I saw her eyes narrow slightly. "Go on." "I found out when I was in the taxi coming here this morning. I tried calling my manager, tried calling HR, tried calling colleagues. No one will answer my calls. They've already locked me out of all company systems." Victoria was quiet for a long moment, processing what I'd told her. Then she asked, "Do you know why they fired you?" "I have no idea. My performance reviews have been excellent. I've never missed a deadline or lost a client. I've made them millions of dollars over the past 5 years. And now, this was the moment of truth. Now I have a choice. I can walk away, let Sterling send someone else to try to salvage this deal and probably watch it fall apart because you don't trust anyone else there. Or I can start my own company and honor every commitment I've made to you under my own name. The software is the same. I can license it from the original developers. The implementation plan is the same. I wrote it. The only difference is that you'd be working with me directly, instead of through Sterling." Victoria was quiet for almost a minute. I could practically see her mind working through the implications, the risks, the opportunities. Finally, she smiled. "How quickly can you incorporate?" "You're serious?" I asked, hardly believing what I was hearing. "Completely serious. Sarah, do you think we've been fooling ourselves for the past 8 months? We know exactly who we've been working with. It wasn't Sterling Industries. It was you." Victoria stood up and walked to her window, looking out over the Chicago skyline. "I've been in business for 20 years. I've seen plenty of companies put their best people on deals during the sales process, then hand you off to junior staff once the contract is signed. That's not what we want." She turned back to me. "What we want is a partner who will be personally invested in our success. Someone who will take our 2 a.m. phone calls when systems crash. Someone who will fight for us when things go wrong." My heart was pounding. "And you think I'm that person?" "I know you are. The question is, are you ready to bet your career on it?" I thought about the text message that had shattered my morning. I thought about 5 years of loyalty that Sterling had discarded in a single sentence. I thought about Michael and the executives who were probably planning their celebration lunch while I was building my own future. "What do I need to do?" I asked. Victoria smiled and picked up her phone. "Emily, could you ask our legal team to join us and see if James Miller is available?" She looked at me. "James is our attorney. If you're going to do this, we need to do it right." The next hour was the most intense of my professional life. Victoria's legal team explained what would be required to restructure the deal with a new company. I would need to incorporate immediately, establish business banking, and provide proof of insurance and bonding. The biggest challenge was the software licensing. Sterling owned the rights to the platform Meridian wanted to purchase, but Victoria's team had an elegant solution: Instead of licensing Sterling software, we would license the original platform directly from the developers who had created it before selling it to Sterling. It's actually better this way, explained James Miller, Meridian's attorney. You'll have more control over customization and updates. Sterling was just a middleman. While the lawyers worked on contract modifications, I called a business attorney I'd met at a networking event 6 months earlier. Jennifer Walsh specialized in helping executives start their own companies. "Sarah, I heard about Sterling this morning," she said when I reached her. "Word travels fast in this industry." "You heard about what happened?" "I heard they let you go right before the Meridian signing." The timing seems suspicious. Jennifer agreed to meet me at Meridian's office within the hour. She brought incorporation papers, banking forms, and a list of insurance brokers who could provide immediate coverage. By 2 p.m., I was signing documents to create Hammond Consulting Group, named as a tribute to Victoria's confidence in me. By 3 p.m., I had business bank accounts and insurance. By 4 p.m., the revised contracts were ready for review. Victoria scheduled the official signing for 5 p.m., giving her board time to review the modified agreement. During the break, she took me to lunch at a quiet restaurant near her office. "I have to ask," she said over salads, "are you sure you're ready for this? Running your own company is completely different from being an employee." It was a fair question. This morning I'd been a senior account manager with a steady salary and benefits. Tonight I would be a business owner with one client and enormous responsibility. Honestly, I'm terrified, I admitted. But I'm also excited. For 5 years, I've been making other people rich with my relationships and my work. Maybe it's time to build something for myself. Victoria nodded approvingly. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Entrepreneurs who aren't scared aren't paying attention to the risks. She leaned forward. "Let me tell you something that might help. Meridian's business is growing fast. This $15 million deal is just the beginning. If you do good work for us, if you prove you can scale your operation, we have other divisions that will need similar services." My pulse quickened. How much other business? Potentially 50 to 75 million over the next 3 years. But that depends entirely on how well you handle this first project. I set down my fork, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what she was offering. This wasn't just about replacing my old job, it was about building something much bigger. "I won't let you down," I said. "I know you won't. That's why I'm betting on you." At 5 p.m., I walked into Meridian's main conference room as the CEO of Hammond Consulting Group. Victoria's board was there, along with her senior executives and legal team. James Miller had prepared a brief presentation explaining the contract modifications. "Ladies and gentlemen," Victoria announced, "I'd like you to meet Sarah Hammond, founder and CEO of Hammond Consulting Group, our new strategic technology partner." The board members nodded politely, but I could see questions in their eyes. One of them, an older man with gray hair and a stern expression, raised his hand. "Miss Hammond, this is highly unusual. We spent 8 months evaluating Sterling Industries, and now we're signing with a company that was incorporated this afternoon. How do we know you can deliver what you're promising?" It was a completely reasonable question, and I had prepared for it. "Sir, you're absolutely right to be concerned. But let me ask you this. What did you like about Sterling Industries?" "Their track record, their technical expertise, and frankly, their account manager." He gestured toward me. Sterling's track record was built by people like me, who have now left the company. Their technical expertise comes from contractors and developers who work with multiple firms. And their account manager is sitting right here, ready to give you the same service under better terms. I stood up and walked to the whiteboard. "Here's what you're actually getting. Direct access to the person who built this relationship, faster decision-making because you're dealing with the owner instead of an employee, and more personal attention because your success directly determines my company's future." The stern board member smiled for the first time. "Ms. Hammond, you make a compelling case." The contract signing took 20 minutes. Each page I signed felt like a small victory over Sterling Industries and everyone who had underestimated me. When we reached the final signature page, Victoria stood up. "Before we make this official, I want to say something." Business partnerships are built on trust, and trust is built through personal relationships. Today, we're not just signing a contract, we're beginning a partnership that I believe will benefit both our companies for years to come. She looked directly at me. Sarah, you took an enormous risk today. You could have walked away from this situation and found another job within a week. Instead, you chose to bet on yourself and on us. That takes courage, and it tells me everything I need to know about your character. I signed the final page with a hand that was remarkably steady, considering the circumstances. Victoria signed next, followed by her board chairman. When the last signature was complete, the room erupted in applause. "Welcome to the Meridian family, Hammond Consulting Group," Victoria said, shaking my hand. As the board members filed out, Victoria pulled me aside one more time. "I have something for you," she said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a check for 50% of the contract value, $7.5 million. "We always pay half up front with new strategic partners," she explained. "Consider it a vote of confidence." I stared at the check, hardly believing the numbers. This morning I'd been a fired employee. Tonight I was a millionaire business owner. I left Meridian's office in a daze, carrying contracts worth $15 million and a check that represented more money than I'd made in my entire career. The reality of what had happened was just starting to sink in. My phone had been buzzing all afternoon with calls and texts, but I'd been too busy to check them. Now, walking down Michigan Avenue in the cool evening air, I finally looked at my messages. 17 missed calls from Michael, 8 from various Sterling executives. Dozens of texts ranging from confused, "What happened?" to angry, "Call me immediately," to desperate, "We need to talk." I also had messages from former colleagues who had heard about my departure. Most were supportive, but a few were clearly fishing for information about what had gone wrong. The most interesting message was from Mike, my closest friend at Sterling. "Sarah, I don't know what happened, but I need to tell you something. Michael and the executives had a meeting yesterday about restructuring the sales team. They were worried about overdependence on individual relationships. I think they were planning to fire you all along, right after the Meridian deal closed." That message answered a lot of questions. Sterling hadn't fired me impulsively. They'd planned it carefully. They wanted me to close the deal, then they wanted to cut me loose and keep the relationship for themselves. Unfortunately for them, they'd underestimated how personal business relationships really are. I returned to my hotel room and opened my laptop to start building Hammond Consulting Group's infrastructure. I needed a website, marketing materials, and a plan for delivering on the promises I'd made to Meridian. My phone rang. Michael's name appeared on the screen. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to his message. "Sarah, I don't know what game you're playing, but you need to call me back immediately. We have a contract with Meridian, and you're interfering with our business relationship." I laughed out loud. After firing me by text message, Michael was concerned about business relationships? I called Jennifer Walsh, my new attorney. "Michael Johnson from Sterling Industries just left me a voicemail claiming I'm interfering with their business relationship with Meridian. What should I expect? Probably threats, maybe legal action. Companies get desperate when they lose big deals." "But Sarah, you're in a strong position. You didn't steal anything, you didn't violate any agreements, and you certainly didn't force Meridian to work with you instead of Sterling." Jennifer paused. "Actually, this gives me an idea. What do you know about Sterling's other major clients?" "Quite a bit. I've worked with most of them over the past 5 years. Why?" "Because if Sterling is going to make this difficult for you, you might as well level the playing field. How many of those clients would be interested in working with you directly?" I thought about my client relationships. Sterling had built their reputation on my work, but the actual relationships belonged to me. Probably 6 or 7 of them. Maybe more. Then maybe it's time to give them a call. I spent Friday morning making phone calls. Not to Sterling's clients directly, but to former colleagues who had also been pushed out or marginalized by the company's recent restructuring. The first call was to Lisa Anderson, who had been Sterling's top technical consultant until she was demoted 6 months ago in favor of a less experienced but cheaper replacement. Lisa had 20 years of experience and relationships throughout the industry. Sarah, I heard what happened. Are you okay? Actually, I'm better than okay. I'm starting my own company, and I'm wondering if you'd be interested in joining me. I explained the Meridian deal and my plans for Hammond Consulting Group. Lisa was quiet for a moment, then said, "When do we start?" The second call was to Robert Taylor, a project manager who had been reorganized out of his role 2 weeks earlier. Robert had managed implementations for some of Sterling's biggest clients and had a reputation for delivering projects on time and under budget. "Sarah, this is perfect timing. I was dreading the job search. When can we meet?" By Friday afternoon, I had the core team for Hammond Consulting Group, myself as CEO, Lisa as Chief Technical Officer, and Robert as Director of Implementation. All three of us had been forced out of Sterling within the past 6 months. But the most interesting development came Friday evening, when my phone rang with a call from an unexpected source. "Sarah? This is Patricia Williams from Global Dynamics. I heard through the grapevine that you've started your own company." Global Dynamics was one of Sterling's biggest clients, a company I'd worked with for 3 years. Patricia was their CTO. "That's right, Patricia. Hammond Consulting Group. Well, I have a question for you. Are you taking new clients?" Patricia's call opened the floodgates. By Monday morning, I had inquiries from 4 of Sterling's major clients. Word was spreading through the industry that the person behind Sterling's recent successes was now available independently. The most satisfying call came from Marcus Thompson, CEO of International Freight Solutions. Marcus was blunt. "Sarah, Sterling just called to tell us you'd been terminated and that Michael Johnson would be taking over our account personally. But here's the thing. Michael has never worked on our account. He doesn't know our business, our challenges, or our goals. We want to work with you." Each client call followed a similar pattern. Sterling was scrambling to reassign accounts, but they couldn't reassign relationships. The clients wanted to work with the people they trusted, not the company logo. By Tuesday, I had signed 3 new clients worth a combined $12 million. By Wednesday, I had hired 2 more consultants and was looking for office space. Jennifer Walsh called with an update on Sterling's legal threats. "They're claiming you violated your non-compete agreement. But their case is weak. You're not competing with them. You're providing better service in a specialized niche." She laughed. "Actually, they might have a bigger problem than losing clients. I heard from a friend at their bank that they're scrambling to replace the revenue they were counting on from the Meridian deal. Apparently, they had made some commitments based on projected cash flow that now looks uncertain." That news should have made me happy, but instead, it made me think about my former colleagues who were still trapped there. People like Mike, who had warned me about the restructuring plans. 2 weeks after starting Hammond Consulting Group, I flew back to Chicago for my first project review meeting with Meridian. The implementation was ahead of schedule, the early results were exceeding expectations, and Victoria's team was thrilled with the low level of service they were receiving. "Sarah, I have to tell you something," Victoria said during our private lunch. "3 other companies have called me asking for references about your work. Apparently, word is getting out about our partnership." "What did you tell them?" "The truth. That you're professional, reliable, and completely committed to your client's success. Oh, and I may have mentioned that we're already discussing additional projects with you." Victoria slid a folder across the table. "Speaking of which, our European division needs a similar software overhaul. The project scope is about $25 million over 2 years. Are you interested?" I opened the folder and scanned the preliminary requirements. It was exactly the kind of complex, high-value project that Hammond Consulting Group was designed to handle. "Very interested," I said. "Good, because I've already scheduled preliminary meetings for next month. This partnership is working out even better than I hoped." Flying back home that evening, I reflected on how dramatically my life had changed in just 2 weeks. The text message that was supposed to end my career had actually launched something much bigger. My phone buzzed with a text from Mike. "Heard about your Meridian expansion. Congratulations. Also heard Sterling is in serious financial trouble. They're laying off people every week now. 1 month after incorporating Hammond Consulting Group, I was running a consulting firm with 7 employees and over $30 million in active contracts. We had moved into a real office, hired an accountant, and established relationships with banks and insurance companies. The growth was exhilarating but also overwhelming. I was learning the difference between being an excellent employee and being a business owner. Every decision was my responsibility, every success was my reward, and every mistake was my problem to solve. The most challenging part was managing my former colleagues' expectations. Word had spread through the industry about my success, and I was getting calls every day from people who wanted to join Hammond Consulting Group. Some were qualified professionals looking for better opportunities. Others were just looking for an easy path to higher salaries. I had to learn to say no, which was harder than I expected. But I also discovered the joy of saying yes to the right people. Lisa and Robert had become genuine partners, not just employees. We were building something together that none of us could have created alone. The most satisfying moment came when James Miller, Meridian's attorney, called with an update on Sterling Industries. "Sarah, I thought you'd want to know. Sterling filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection yesterday. Apparently, losing the Meridian deal and several other major clients created a cash flow crisis they couldn't recover from." I felt a complex mix of emotions: satisfaction that justice had been served, but also sadness for the good people who would lose their jobs because of bad management decisions. 6 months after that devastating text message, I was featured on the cover of Consulting Today magazine as Entrepreneur of the Year. The article described how I had built a multi-million-dollar consulting firm from nothing in less than a year. The interview was surreal. The journalist asked about my overnight success, and I had to explain that it wasn't overnight at all. It was the result of 5 years of relationship building, skill development, and reputation management that Sterling Industries had tried to own but couldn't control. "What advice would you give to other professionals who feel undervalued by their employers?" the journalist asked. "Document everything. Own your relationships, and never stop learning. Companies can fire you, but they can't fire your skills or your reputation. The question is, are you building your career, or are you just building someone else's company?" The magazine feature generated even more business inquiries. We signed 4 new clients in the month after publication, including 2 companies that had never worked with Sterling, but had heard about our results with Meridian. More importantly, the article caught the attention of a venture capital firm that was interested in helping us expand internationally. The managing partner, someone named Rebecca Foster, wanted to discuss a potential investment that could accelerate our growth dramatically. I scheduled a meeting with Rebecca for the following week. Hammond Consulting Group was about to enter a new phase of growth that I never could have imagined when I started this journey. 1 year after starting Hammond Consulting Group, I hosted a celebration dinner for our team. We had grown to 15 employees, signed contracts worth over $60 million, and established offices in 3 cities. Lisa raised her glass for a toast to Sarah, who turned the worst day of her career into the best decision any of us ever made. Robert added, "And to Sterling Industries, for being stupid enough to fire the person who made them successful." We all laughed, but the truth was that I had stopped thinking about Sterling months ago. They had filed for bankruptcy. Michael had taken a job with a smaller company, and most of their former clients were now working with competitors. My focus was entirely on the future. Rebecca Foster's venture capital firm had agreed to invest $10 million in Hammond Consulting Group, giving us the resources to expand into Europe and Asia. Victoria had introduced us to her network of Fortune 500 CEOs, generating opportunities we never could have pursued as a small firm. But the most rewarding part wasn't the money or the recognition. It was the knowledge that I had built something entirely my own. Every success belonged to me and my team. Every client relationship was based on trust we had earned. Every opportunity was the result of work we had done. As I looked around the table at my colleagues, people who had become friends and partners, I remembered that text message from a year ago. The message that was supposed to destroy my career had actually liberated me from a company that never deserved my loyalty. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that could have happened. You just have to be brave enough to see the opportunity hidden in the disaster.